Dark Ages, that's what we call them. But not because the sun stopped shining. We call them dark because of the people who worked where light could not survive. While the world remembers knights, kings, and cathedrals, there was another medieval world beneath the banners and prayers. A world of bodies, blood, fear, and secrets. A world run by figures no one wanted to see, but everyone depended on. You already know the heroic version of the Middle Ages. Castles, crowns, glory. That story was for the crowd. This story is for those brave enough to look at the shadows. Welcome to the medieval dark universe where survival meant standing face to face with death every single day. Tonight, we meet the first figures who lived where history refused to look. The plague doctor. When the Black Death arrived, it didn't knock, it consumed. Villages fell silent overnight, families rotted inside their homes. Then came a figure in a beaked mask and black robes, smelling of smoke and herbs. The plague doctor believed sickness traveled through bad air, so they filled their mask with flowers and spices, hoping to filter death itself. To the sick, they looked like demons. To the living, they were a sign that death had already arrived. They carried no cure, only a witness. The executioner. In medieval cities, justice had a face, and it was hidden. The executioner lived apart from society. People needed him, but would not touch him. He mastered the art of killing cleanly. One swing, one life. Too slow, and the crowd would riot. Too fast, and the soul might not be ready. He baptized babies when priests refused. He married only within his cursed profession. He was both feared and essential, a man who turned law into blood. The witch. A woman who knew too much, a healer without permission, a mind that refused to kneel. That was enough. Witches were blamed for storms, stillbirths, and plague. Their real crime was independence. Burning them was not about magic. It was about control. Fire erased knowledge, and fear kept the rest silent. The grave digger. When death came in waves, someone had to touch the bodies. Grave diggers worked at night. They knew the smell of rot better than bread. They buried entire families in mass pits with no names. Some were rumored to steal teeth, rings, even bones. Others went mad from the silence. They were the last human hands the dead would ever feel. The medieval surgeon. No anesthesia, no sterilization, no mercy. Surgeons cut off limbs with saws still warm from the last patient. They believed pain meant life. They believed pus meant healing. Survival was a gamble. Screams were part of the procedure. To them, the human body was not sacred. It was a battlefield. The monk with the forbidden book. Behind monastery walls, not all prayers were holy. Some monks copied banned texts, alchemy, anatomy, lost pagan knowledge. They studied stars instead of saints. They questioned instead of obeyed. One forbidden book could mean execution. One idea could mean heresy. They were scholars in chains, guardians of truths the church feared. These were not villains. They were consequences. They existed because the Middle Ages were not a time of light, but a time of survival through horror. And these are only the first faces of the darkness. Fear did not only live in sickness and death, it learned to speak. It learned to punish, and it learned to rule. As medieval society tried to hold itself together, new figures emerged, not to heal, but to enforce terror, obedience, and silence. These were the people who turned fear into a system. The torturer. Hidden beneath castles and courts were rooms without windows, rooms where screams were considered evidence. The torturer was not a sadist in the eyes of the law. He was an instrument of truth. Racks, stretched bones, iron boots, crushed feet. Fire kissed flesh until confessions appeared. Innocent or guilty did not matter. Pain made everyone speak. The body became a language, and suffering became proof. The flagellant. When plague spread and God seemed angry, some men chose to punish themselves. They marched through cities barefoot, whipping their own backs until blood soaked the streets. They believed pain could cleanse the world. Crowds followed them. Children cried, church bells rang. These were not madmen. They were walking prayers made of flesh and wounds, a moving symbol of how deeply fear had entered the human soul. The leper bell ringer. Leprosy did not just rot the body, it erased identity. Those infected were forced to wear bells so others could hear them coming, a living warning sign. They could not touch food at markets. They could not enter churches. They could not kiss their children. Every step rang with exile. They were alive, but already treated as dead. The assassin. Far from Europe's castles, another shadow grew. Trained killers who struck rulers in broad daylight and vanished. They used blades, not armies. Faith, not fear. Legends said they were drugged, hypnotized, brainwashed into obedience. Reality was darker. They believed murder was sacred duty. To kings, they were nightmares with names. To history, they became myth. Death with purpose. The inquisitor. Some men hunted heresy like wolves hunt prey. The inquisitor did not need proof, only suspicion, a strange book, a whispered prayer, a neighbor's accusation. They questioned minds as much as bodies. They destroyed ideas, not just people. Their mission was purity. Their tool was terror. Truth did not matter. Order did. The royal poisoner. Not all murder wore armor. In courts, death hid inside wine cups and soup bowls. Poisoners worked quietly, mixing arsenic into feasts, slipping powders into medicine. No sword wounds, no screams, just sudden illness and silence. They were the ghosts of political war, invisible executioners in velvet halls. The court jester. Even laughter had a dark edge. Jesters were allowed to mock kings, but only while dancing on the edge of death. One joke too sharp could mean hanging. One truth spoken too clearly could mean exile. They were fools who saw everything and survived by pretending to be nothing. Comedy was their shield, madness their disguise. These figures did not live in legends. They lived in the cracks of society, where law met fear and faith met violence. They remind us that the Middle Ages were not just built with stone, but with pain, obedience, and secrets. And we have not reached the darkest figures yet, because some shadows did not serve death, they ruled with it. Power was the darkest invention of the Middle Ages. Not the power of armies, but the power to decide who lived, who burned, and who disappeared from memory. These final figures did not hide in shadows. They were the shadows. The child king. Some rulers wore crowns before they could read. A boy king was a symbol of hope to the people, and a weapon for those behind the throne. Regents poisoned rivals. Courts whispered lies into young ears. Wars were started in his name while he played with toys. These children did not rule kingdoms. Kingdoms used them. Innocence sat on a throne of blood. The mad prophet. Every era of fear breeds prophets. Men who claimed God spoke directly to them. Women who said angels showed them the future. They gathered followers in ruins and forests. They predicted the end of the world. They promised salvation through obedience. Some were executed, some were worshipped. All of them terrified the authorities. Because belief is more dangerous than swords. The cult leader. When faith broke, cults filled the gap. Secret rituals, hidden symbols, promises of eternal life. Their followers gave away money, families, and names. They lived for the leader's voice. To the outside world, they were madness. To their members, they were the only truth. Whole villages vanished into belief. The Black Knight. Not every knight was noble. Some became mercenaries of cruelty. They burned farms, took prisoners for ransom, and slaughtered civilians. Armor hid their faces. No one knew their names. They fought for gold, not honor, for chaos, not kings. They were war without rules. The dungeon keeper. Someone had to guard the forgotten, prisoners chained in darkness for years. No trial, no release. Dungeon keepers fed them just enough to live. Some forgot sunlight, some forgot language. They watched men rot alive. The dungeon was not a place, it was a slow execution. The queen of intrigue. Not all monsters carried swords. Some carried letters. Queens and noblewomen poisoned rivals, arranged secret marriages, and destroyed families with whispers. One rumor could ruin a bloodline. One lie could start a war. They ruled from behind curtains, invisible but deadly. The death collector. In times of war and plague, men were sent to count bodies. They walked through ruins writing numbers, not names, not stories, just totals. They reduced humanity to statistics. This was the beginning of cold history, where lives became data. These were the last faces of the medieval dark universe. Not demons, not legends, but humans shaped by fear, power, and survival. The Middle Ages were not only built with castles and churches, but with silence, fire, and forgotten lives. History remembers heroes, but civilization was carried on the backs of the damned. And maybe that is the most disturbing truth of all. The shadows did not disappear. They only changed their names.